You know, to me, the bigger picture about thinking how we get women in politics, I think this is crucial. And I think it's really hard, in part because it is about transformative change. It is actually about fundamentally making our, you know, some of these core institutions that help organize power and resources and kind of agendas for our collective action, how we open them up to be fundamentally egalitarian. And while we see these patterns worldwide where women's exclusion is just so striking and so consistent, I think, to me, I take that as a sign, not that this is a natural order in any way, but that there really is deep resistance to women's incredible power. It takes concerted efforts from, as many angles as possible to really fundamentally transform systems. And I think, one of the questions that I get a lot of the times, particularly thinking about India, is, to say, well, how can you start off with women? Shouldn't we be starting off with thinking about caste oppression first? I mean, I think these two forms of oppression are deeply linked. There's lots of work done, especially coming out of Haryana, really, on how women's social, women really serve as the gatekeepers for the caste system, and that policing women's sexuality is how we maintain these social hierarchies. And so, I think, as we see women coming more and more into positions that recognize our authority and our power in politics and in economics, there's no way that these social hierarchies can continue to stand the way they are now. So, and to the extent, because we have these hierarchies, this makes it harder for women to mobilize together to recognize our collective interests and to act on them. And so, I see hierarchy across many areas as a fundamental problem that we, as humans, we have to address if we want to reach kind of this place where we are able to recognize our potential, our full humanity. That only comes from a place of really radical and like comprehensive equality. What we are seeing, there's this reigning popular discourse about proxy politics, about the Sarpanch Party or the Pradhan Party, and this was particularly widespread, I think, in the run-up to and in the first round of reserve seats for women, and I think this was sort of honestly a lot of men telling themselves, we don't need to worry too much because we're still going to be in control. Like, that's fine. We can symbolically give these seats to women, but we know that it's really going to be husbands or brothers or fathers who are going to be the ones really pulling the strings, in part because they have higher levels of literacy, they have more political experience, they have access to a broader resource network and, kind of political networks in general. And what I think we see from this, this early experiment in local governance for women, women's representation in local governance, is that women really are effective political agents. And they really are revolutionizing how politics works at the local level. And so I think we're seeing that in, I don't see openings. I personally, from this vantage point, sitting in Boston right now, but I imagine that we're just going to see greater resistance to women's reservations, not less, for the near future, unless something changes. And I think the place where we see this resistance even more powerfully is in women's entry, into the labor force. And what we see across the country is actually declining female labor force participation, not rising, despite the fact that women really have parity with men, and in some cases greater at levels of education than men. So this is really about, the exit of excellent women from the labor force and from the political spectrum. spectrum as a result of resistance to a systemic altering of power relations. And so I don't think this will last. I think this will change, but I think this is there, people who are traditionally entitled to be the main holders of resources within the household and holders of political power within the nation are realizing that those entitlements are quite fragile. And so ideally what we see is more work to collectively mobilize not just women, but women and men in support of greater equality, because I do think it will benefit everyone.